Subdivision, Section 5, located at the western end of Coastal View Drive. Applicant Lake Lane LLC is requesting preliminary final subdivision and site plan approval associated with the subdivision of land and construction of 9 single-family residences on a 30.86-acre parcel located in the WD Waterfront Development District under the Code of Town of Webster.
Good evening. My name is Mike Ritchie from Coastal Engineering. Here representing Stacy Harold Whitey of Lake Lane LLC. We're requesting final site plan subdivision approval for Section 5, Coastal View Subdivision. Just a little overview on this. The preliminary plan was approved in 2002. This is the last section of the subdivision, and under the preliminary plan, it was actually proposed to be 35 townhouse units. Based on the market, it has been determined that single-family residential makes more sense, so at this point, the plan that you have is for 9 single-family lots. In terms of utilities, water, sewer, stormwater are all available or previously designed under preliminary approval. We had previously met with Mr. Kashani and Mr. Artuso to go over the project. I think generally it was well received at that time. We did receive late last week some PRC comments. Generally, I spoke with the developer, and he's agreeable to all the comments. I think we can address these. I'd be happy to go down through each one of them if the board wishes to have more detail on it. With that, I would open any questions the board may have.
When we looked at it, it looked pretty simple. Now it's got to be complicated. I don't know. Before you even get into the development of it, I know there are a couple of spots on the waterfront side, on the bank, that are seriously washing out.
And I did see on the grading plan, there's a couple, I would say, existing gullies, and I talked to Josh about that in our plan. Obviously, we're not proposing any development within the DEC buffer area, but we would propose to add some drainage inlets, capture that water, and thereby significantly reduce the amount of stormwater runoff reaching the bluff.
And there's an area, I believe, in the center, it's kind of wet area too, like where it'd be like where the roadway would go back.
Yeah, and generally that area is going to be infilled to make sure we eliminate any wet area. The site will be lifted up generally, about a foot over existing grade to avoid any wet areas.
The lots, the way you're proposing this now is, I've got 2 different maps I'm looking at here. One is showing what was originally, I don't know if it's HOA or if it's just the open space area, the hashed area along the shoreline.
Yes.
Around the project.
Right, so I can speak to that a little bit. Originally, under the preliminary plan, there was a certain amount of open space that needed to be provided. And the original thinking was to make that open space along the bluff, because obviously we can't develop in that area. A few things have caused us to kind of revise that thinking. One being this area, the lots and the property line is a little bit squatter. The grades really drop off to the south, so you really can't move this road any further south. So these lots are very compact. So if we had to add in the HOA land and then the setback, there really wouldn't be any developable area really for adequate lots there. And another part of it is, based on the 2017-2019 high water events, we felt it was important to give the homeowners the ability to be able to manage their properties instead of having to go through an HOA, which could be a little bit cumbersome. So for those reasons, we decided to relocate some of the open space, which you can see kind of in the hashed area here. Still complies with the amount of open space that was required for the preliminary plan. But these areas, you can see some of this in the area of the existing pond and wooded areas that won't be disturbed in the future.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, can we go into the what you call it, those items that, let's talk about that.
ERC,
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to run through these.
Please.
First one, a couple comments from the highway department. Says need a true T-style hammerhead for the turnaround at the end of Coastal View. The plan we had proposed, I guess I would call it a half hammerhead with the entrance going to the south. The reason for this is, we didn't want to have to push that road any farther west than we needed to. And if we did a true T-style hammerhead, it would be impeding on this most western lot. I spoke with Josh about that. We're proposing to kind of bend the road a little bit to be able to get a true T-style hammerhead, but also not impede on the future lot. So I think we found a way to make that work. Thank you. And then the other highway department comment on the last lot, driveway should remain on the east side so not to be incorporated into the turnaround. Due to snow removal needs, we agree with that. It's good design. Another comment from Tony, the near washouts over the bank shoreline, the existing water issue needs to be addressed, and Mr. Kashani, you brought that up, and we're in agreement. Even with our plan as presented, we've significantly reduced the amount of stormwater runoff going to that bluff versus what goes there today. But we'll take another step and add a couple drainage inlets to further reduce what can get to the bluff. And then there's a few comments from the sewer department. First one, existing force main coming from the cottages. Why are they tying in a manhole S11 rather than turn around at S12? We agree. I think our thought was not to kind of backtrack where the pump station was, but to continue on, but it's a shorter distance, so we're agreeable to tie into manhole S12. Next comment, they're basically asking that we tie to that manhole S12 with an inside drop, or with no inside drop, an outside drop that is, and we're agreeable to that. And finally, the existing 2x2 sanitary vault, we don't know what that is for. Is that their pump station? It is shown on the map 40 feet to the east of S12. They need to explain it. That's a pump station for the cottages. There's a series of them going up the hill. There have been, even going back to section 4, they've had to cut that force main and tie in. So this would be the final one, and that existing vault is right around 507, 508. So we're agreeable to address all these comments, and I think we can do that relatively easily.
Thank you.
Is this still part of Coastal View? Who's the paper I'm looking at here? Lake Landing, LLC?
Correct.
It's, you guys?
Say it again?
LLC, it's Lake Landing?
It's the land is it's the Hagedorn Land Family Trust. So this whole thing going down the Lake Road is currently all one parcel. So the goal is we would subdivide these lots out, and the remainder of the land would stay with Hagedorn family.
So you're the developer though?
For the Hagedorn FLC.
All right, again, this is a public hearing, so I guess there's a bunch of folks here for, if you would like to come up and so and just give us a little talk. Sure. Just give us your name and address.
Good evening, my name is Steve Terragino. My address is 361 Coastal View Drive. I'm here both as a resident of the community and as a representative and president of the Homeowners Association. So we just received notice of this development about the development. So we compiled our questions. First and foremost, we're happy that 9 homes are going in as opposed to 34 townhomes. But in looking at the design, we had a few questions, and maybe the gentleman from Costage, Stacy, or those here, the Hagedorn family might be able to answer. The first is, the open space. There's supposed to be, again, I think the board is aware that Coastal View Subdivision has been around for about 18 years. Hopefully, the development will finally finish in the next year or so with some remaining homes. This is phase 5. It was supposed to be part of the Homeowners Association, and it appears as though at this point it's not going to be. So we have 6, 7, $800 million homes in our community. Phase 5 is opening up with 9 lots that is not going to be part of an HOA. So first and foremost, we don't know what type of homes are going in. So we want to address the fact that we're concerned. We want to maintain the value of our property. When I bought into Coastal View, I bought with the intent that we're part of an HOA. The homes around me were going to be part of this HOA. They were going to be in compliance with what the homes are supposed to look like, size, value, so on and so forth. I trust the lakefront homes will be of proper size and value to maintain that. But with respect to the open space, there's supposed to be 6.8 acres that when I bought the property and the residents bought the property, relied on the CPS 7 that was going to be there. Where, we got these maps about a week ago, and even last very little time to look at it. Where is the 6.8 acres in this plan that the homeowners will have access to?
The hatched area shown in that plan is the 6.8.
Go ahead and finish, once you know the questions. Then
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. So whereabouts is that? If you just point to that. Okay. And we didn't have, again, we didn't have a lot of time to look at this. And again, who's going to own that and maintain it? Because the common areas within Coastal View right now, the homeowners association owns it. We maintain it, we subcontract it. It's mulched, it's mowed, and it's gorgeous space. So who's going to maintain that property? Who's going to own that property?
Okay, go ahead. Keep taking notes, and then you can address them after.
And is there going to be a plan for a path? We work really
I'm
hard on
sorry, a path?
a path to the lake. Our community worked and we're assessed to get to have a path down to the lake. We were granted that by this board, by the DEC and a number of other agencies. It was incredibly difficult, but is there a planned path for this phase of the subdivision? Again, with this common area, when you go into this part of the subdivision, when it's complete, they'll enter into Coastal View, which is all HOA land that we maintain. It's manicured, it's perfected. Are these folks going to enjoy it to some extent? Sure. Are they going to contribute to the upkeep of our common areas that they're going to have access to? Right now, it's planned that they're not going to do that. And part of this too is, from a budgetary standpoint, when the HOA is put together, we were relying on revenue coming in from these additional homes. They're really townhomes being built. Again, we want the 9 houses, we don't want 34 homes. But right now, there's no planned contributions from these 9 homes, not only for the common areas, but they're going to have access to the path that everybody was assessed for and paid for to the lake. I mean, no one's going to stand guard and go, hey, you live on phase 5, you don't have access to the lake. So that's an issue too. The other question is, and I think you may have mentioned it, what's going to be the setback from the shoreline to where the back of the homes are? Because everybody's aware of the erosion issues, and it would be a shame for these folks buying these lots to be too close to the back lot. And then on the other side of that question is, how far are these homes from the street? Because we want to maintain the consistency and the beauty of the neighborhood. So we don't want houses 30 feet from the street when most of our houses, I don't even know what the setback was, it was 55 or 60 feet from the front of the street. So we want to at least have a consistent view when you're coming down Coastal View all the way to the end, not have 6 or 8 houses on the end that are sitting right on top of the street. And I don't really know if anybody's going to buy, I'm sure they will, buy a house when they want it sitting that close to the street, especially homes of that value. The other concern is too, about 2 years ago, the HOA came to this board and we requested ownership of our property, the bluff, because we wanted, due to erosion, we wanted to have the opportunity to improve it, protect it, and right now we don't have that opportunity. With this phase 5 going in, it appears as though the folks buying these lots will have the ability to own the bluff, and essentially they could have lake access if they apply for it, if they grant it to it. So the request really would be is they have that same right to do that. Our homeowners on our street have suffered great damage over the last few years with the erosion issue, want that same ability to do that. You know, there's been residents that have spent $30, $40, $50, $60,000 on our street to protect their shoreline, and they don't even own it. So we would at least request that, the ability to own that shoreline. I think it's only fair that if I'm going to invest $60,000 or $70,000 to put stones in the back of my lot, that I at least own it. And then finally, again, I think I mentioned it, and lastly, is the architectural standards. When we bought our home, and Stacy did a great job, but there were standards. You know, Steve, you had to put a few thousand square foot home, and it has to look like this. The roof has to be this color, has to conform. So we have a real conforming neighborhood, that the houses are of consistent character. Sure, we're driven down the street. It's a gorgeous street. And we just want to make sure we maintain the character of the street, and you know, some obscure architectural homes aren't going up, you know, on the other end. I mean, I bought into that subdivision because of the rules and regulations. You know, I'm a CPA by trade, so I like rules and regulations as many other people do. And you know, we pay a lot of taxes and we pay a lot for a house. So I just want to make sure that those standards are maintained throughout the neighborhood. And you know, finally, we only had a week to look at this. And again, we support it, but you know, this is basically the questions that came from the board. You know, we haven't had a chance to go to the community to see if there was any other issues. But again, just to reiterate, we support the 9 homes going in. I think Stacy did a good job, but these other concerns, you know, we'd like to at least have addressed prior to hitting this. That's all I have, so we're good. Thank you.
Good questions, thank you. You want to go ahead and address them, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Just say a little.
I may have missed some of these, or I may have them out of order, sorry. First one I have on there, who will own or who's going to own the open space? It's not going to be an HOA. That property is currently owned by the Hagedorn family, so it'll continue to be owned by them and maintained by them as it currently is right now. Is there a plan for a path? The answer is yes. We do have a path planned to the very western edge, which is going to tie into the cottages area, which again, all part of the Hagedorn property. So there'll be an easement over that to allow access to get down to that area. We're not proposing any tree clearing, any grading, even any stone. Really, it's just going to be a footpath to get down and enjoy the water. Setbacks front and back. So the rear setbacks, and excuse me.
Take the mic with you.
Yep, sorry about that. Setbacks, the rear setback is 55 feet from the property line, but there is also a 25-foot buffer from the top of the bluff. And as you can see on the plan, the rear setbacks are exceeded. Our goal really was to stay as far away from that bluff as we could. The front setbacks are a little bit shorter than they are in other areas. They're consistent with what was approved in the patio home section, and those are 30 feet. And really, we didn't see it was much of an issue. There's one opposing driveway, so you really don't have the issue of, you know, kind of opposing driveways and having pinch points there. So that's what we have proposed for setbacks. Architectural standards, I can't speak to them as well as Stacy can, but I know it's in his best interest to have as nice a home go in there as possible. Stacy, you can speak to that if you'd like. I think it's the intent that the highest standards will be maintained. I believe that's it. In HOA lands, people drive through these areas. You said, you know, they're not going to pay into the HOA, but they're going to benefit from it. I guess my argument would be that it's a dedicated road, that really it's the who pay taxes, and that area will be maintained by the town, not the HOA. So I guess that's my response to that.
Can I have a rebuttal to that?
I guess my question would be, why wouldn't this be part of a HOA along with the rest of the project?
I think Stacy could answer that better. I think it's easier to keep it out of an HOA because then it's just, I don't want to misspeak, but I would say less bureaucracy, less.
I mean, I think what
less
the gentleman just saying made sense to me though. If that whole subdivision, Coastal View, is in a homeowners association, and you're just adding on to, excuse me, adding on to the tail end of it with 9 more houses, it would seem to me that that should be part of the original subdivision.
Well, we're proposing it to maintain as open space, but not necessarily to be managed by a homeowners association. I understand what the homeowner is saying, that he feels he should be paying in, but I don't really think that there's, by paying in for an HOA, there's not a lot of benefit that they're getting from it. I understand there's certain standards that would be maintained.
So are they getting screwed, these people that have a homeowners association?
I can't say that. I wasn't around for the original approval, but I get your point. And Stacy, I don't know if you would like to address that.
Personally, I'd rather see it all under a homeowners association. That's my thinking of it. I don't
disagree. It's not my call at this point. It's kind of a family call. We reviewed it, so we're looking for feedback now. We can go over with them and see what they want to do.
All right. Well,
So
we'll
let's do
let
it.
people speak and we'll go with that. Is there someone else wanted to speak?
Yeah, if I could just comment on some of these comments. With respect to the map he's pointing to, again, obviously he's the expert. However, when he talks about the rear property lines, they're talking about lines that are going to the lake. Okay? So when you look at the rear, when you look at the rear here that he's referring to, and I could be wrong, this is the back, this is the lower side of the bluff. It's eroding. Okay, so I don't know what when they're saying the setback is from this back property line. If it's from the back property line where the lake is, half of that property is in Lake Ontario. So if that 55 feet is talking about from the back of the house to the back of the property line, if that's what they're.
But I think the number he mentioned was 55 foot from the bluff, right?
55 feet from high water, 25 from the bluff.
Yeah, 55 feet from high water is the water. It's not land, guys.
Yeah.
So these houses are sitting a lot closer to what this is depicting in this line. Further, these houses are sitting way closer than our houses are sitting right now. And they could easily move this road up and have a greater front setback. There's plenty of land here. And as far as the HOA goes, yes, we are getting screwed. Okay. I would suggest and ask that they be part of this HOA. They're coming into this, there's 80 or 90 homes that are already in this subdivision. And the land is maintained, and we do pay to have that land mowed, mulched.
I'm going to ask you to address the board, don't address.
Okay, I was addressing his question with respect to, his, response with the HOA. But they should be, I would respectfully ask, this board to require these homes to be part of the HOA. It would allow us to maintain the architectural standards. They would pay into the community. They would pay into the common area. It's 9 homes, okay? These are going to be $750 to $1 million homes.
Yeah.
I think they can afford $100 a month to pay for the common areas. It's not a big deal, but it is us.
And all right, let me have more questions I want to ask them.
Okay.
The way you got the drawing shown here, what is the dimension from the road? 30 foot, you said?
30 feet from the right of way. Correct.
From the right of way. And then the house. But on here, it looks like there's considerable depth.
Correct. Yeah, the closest house to the bluff setback, the closest house we've shown is 70 feet. So 70 feet from the bluff setback. That's not to the property line, that's not to, the water's edge. That's 70 feet
The bluff.
from the back of the house to the bluff setback, not even the bluff. So and that was our goal the whole time. That's
Okay,
why.
so flat land, how far are you away from Navisphere?
Flat land, how far are we disturbing?
Back of the house to the actual drop.
I mean, we're maintaining 30, 40 feet from the bluff at the closest point of disturbance, and that's just tying graves in.
So the house would be 30 to 40?
No, the house would be about 70 feet
Oh, okay, that's what
from the bluff, but the closest that any earthwork or disturbance is going to get is about 40 feet from the bluff. And that was our intent, to minimize the work near the bluff.
Okay, I see what you're saying then. All right, and was there someone else which is?
Yes.
Yes. Just give us your name and address.
Good evening, members of the planning board. My name is Jacqueline Leo, and I live at 383 Coastal View Drive. I'm a resident of Coastal View and a member of the HOA governing Coastal View. Mr. Kashani, after a brief moment, you said, are the existing homeowners getting screwed? That was your question to this group after just a few minutes of listening to this proposal. And the answer that was given by our HOA president and the answer given to you by a resident is, absolutely yes, they are trying to screw us tonight. Not only are they trying to screw us tonight, but they didn't even give us the courtesy of informing us of their proposal. We had to learn of it through the notification through the town, which is quite deceptive, and this planning board should take note of the fact that they didn't bother to talk to any of the other residents. And we can't even speak for the other residents because we haven't even had the opportunity to talk to them about what the proposal is. So at a minimum, I'm going to ask that the planning board table this proposal so that they can do their due diligence and come back to the board. But I do have a couple of other things to mention. One of the threshold issues, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but I heard a couple of different things tonight. According to the CPS 7, Lake Landing LLC is the entity that is the owner and the developer and that can come before this board. I've heard Hagedorn Family Trust. I've heard Hagedorn Family Partnership. I don't know who owns what. I don't know what the plan is moving forward. But the CPS 7 requires Lake Landing LLC. That's the applicant that can come before you tonight to request a change to the Coastal View Subdivision Plan, which was approved 17 years ago. Now, if you might recall, Mr. Kashani, in September of 2018, members of the Coastal View community in this town that pay a lot of money in taxes for this town came to this board and said, we need to own the bluff. And the reason we need to own the bluff is because of the flooding that's occurring in our community and in our property. And this board was not supportive of that. And so our proposal in September of 2019 damaged and hurt our homeowners in that neighborhood. And we have individual homeowners who would have to incur upwards of $50,000 to pay to protect that bluff that they don't own. Because who owns it? The HOA owns it. And you know why the HOA owns it? Because that original subdivision plan, of which these people are members, Section 5 are members of that original subdivision plan, required all of the bluff area to be open space property. That was the requirement. That's what we were told back in September of 2018. And we made the argument to this board, we need to change that because we need to just be able to protect our property. This board wouldn't do that. Now within 7 days notice, you have the same subdivision people coming before you and saying to you, oh, this is a great plan. We're not going to put in condos. You know what? I don't want condos. I certainly support 9 homes versus condos. But oh, and by the way, our 9 homeowners that will have the same street address as me can own the bluff and protect their property, but I'm not allowed to do that. It's inequitable, it's unjust, it's applying different laws to different people that are appearing before you. It's disparate treatment, and quite frankly, I think it would be unlawful to even rule on the application tonight. And in addition, they're asking to subdivide that plan, and again, without giving us full notice. Also in the proposed subdivision, there's some discussion about open space and maybe converting it to parkland or town property. I don't understand all of that because I haven't had time to look at it. I'm raising 3 kids, I have a full-time job. I don't appreciate this short notice to try to understand the impact on my property. But I certainly don't want town land or the public They don't want to pay our board president works really hard to make our neighborhood look good. They don't want to pay for that, and then they also want to like donate some of the land to the town so I can have more people from the public coming through our community, but I have to pay for the nice signage and everyone else gets to enjoy it. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't understand the full particulars because I haven't had time, but I'm asking you that it's another reason to table their proposal because they just haven't done the work. I don't even know if it's appropriate for a section of a subdivision plan that was approved to come before this board without even going to the full subdivision ahead of time. I haven't had time to look at it. I certainly will take the time to look at it, but it doesn't seem appropriate to me that they can try to carve themselves out and not let anybody else know what's going on. And not only are they carving themselves out, but as you said, they don't even want to be part of the HOA. So you guys did all the hard work for 17 years. You've made all these improvements. You fought the fight for the lakefront, and you know what? We're just going to sneak this application in. We're going to try to backdoor it before the planning board and get it approved so we can sell our $1 million lots to who? I don't even know who because I don't know who the developer is, don't know who the builder is, have no idea what the lot's going to look like. All of that is just unknown, remains unknown. As you know from the last time that we were here, the shoreline erosion is significant. And I'm not here to even suggest that I oppose the shoreline ownership or the bluff ownership because I think in 2018 this planning board got it wrong back then. The homeowners should be allowed to purchase and own their bluff to protect their property. It's ridiculous that we are not able to do that. But what's more ridiculous is that I can have a Coastal View address where I can't do that and yet someone down the street can. There's no way that that can happen. It's unlawful, and we will take every step we can to fight that. I do want to remind the board again that everyone purchased the subdivision in reliance upon that CPS 7, that original Coastal View Subdivision plan, which included Section 5, which is here tonight. And everybody relied on that plan when we purchased our property and we purchased our homes. I'd like to give the opportunity for the rest of the neighbors to consider this application, figure out what their issues are. They may have different issues than what I have, but I really don't like the backdoor, quick-handed, deceptive approach of putting this through to the planning board when the rest of the subdivision was never given notice of this application and our interests were not considered. So for that reason, again, Mr. Krishani and the board, I respectfully request that you table this application until such time as they at least engage in discussions with the rest of the homeowners in the subdivision to talk about how this would impact Coastal View, the street they're going to turn into and drive past every time they build their houses, and that this board should not take any action because clearly if you did take action, it would result in disparate treatment between the HOA that was before you in 2018 and the current applications, and that would be a law. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Very well presented. I think she's got some good, strong points there. My understanding, I'm looking at the application. The application does say Lake Landing LLC, but then the tax account is Taylor Family Partnership owns the parcel. So I'm guessing that's why it's a separate piece, developed separately, but I believe Jacqueline, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was just there. Yeah, she has some strong points on it. I mean, I firmly, personally, I believe it should be part of a homeowners association, without a doubt.
No question,
Right? You too, Dave?
no question.
You guys?
They should not be able to benefit
No, it
from
should be part of the
that
overall
HOA
project.
and enjoy all those benefits and not contribute. Absolutely possible.
Yeah,
What did you want to finish hearing everybody else and then?
yeah, just a couple more questions. I'm going to go that understanding is. I'm guessing it's, am I right in saying that this parcel is not connected to the original piece?
It was, yes.
It was.
All the other lots have been subdivided out. This is the remaining land of the original.
But it's a different ownership.
I can't speak to it. I mean, it's Hagedorn.
That's what I'm
now
saying.
formerly
It's a different
Hagedorn.
ownership then.
Correct.
So if it's a different ownership, we're coming in with a new game, which in that sense really should be starting as a sketch plan review, not even a preliminary, my opinion.
I think it's the same, same people have been involved with the project start to finish. I mean, it was previously Hagedorn property, Lake Landing LLC and Stacy, he's been involved with the project from start to finish. This is, regardless of who owns it now, it's part of the overall preliminary.
Well, then if it's part of it, then let's just use that word, part of it. Let's make it part of it and make it part of a homeowners association also, partaking in what the costs and expenses are for the whole project. That's my opinion, I don't know, Derek?
Yeah, that was one of the problems I had when I was looking at this.
Yeah.
You know, and the nice map you have up there that has the green space on it. I mean, with the way the subdivision is, it looks like it's done outside the subdivision. It's not clear who actually owns the open space that you have, or who's going to maintain it.
Right.
With all the points of Jack mentioned. Another thing I'm wondering about, and I'm looking at the site data in here, single family, it's got lot areas and setbacks, and noticing the code, the setbacks, the only thing that's really defined is 25 feet inland from the high water table. And your drawing doesn't have a high water table, it has a low water table.
I think it's got mean high water, I think I saw this.
I see actual property line mean low water. I'm not seeing the high water. I see something that was surveyed out of Land 8 that doesn't make spot. Because the first thing I look at this, I see this lot line that's out here, and that's under the water. And I'm not even sure how that lot line was surveyed or established, because it looks like it's in reference to the low water.
Yes.
And once again, it's supposed to be in reference to high water.
Right in the middle, that's what I'm seeing, says there's no actual property line is mean low water,
Yeah,
right there.
but
Yeah.
it's supposed to be
The water
reference to
line.
the high water.
Yeah, right, it should be, yeah.
It's
that's-
reference to the water line.
I'll check with survey, I don't know if
And
development occur.
In the same note, that all the setbacks you have in here, these are things that are established by the planning board.
I'm sorry, can you state that again?
On your site data, I
Yes.
put in
Yep.
the S100, and single family, I'm not sure where you got the numbers from, because the only thing was 25 feet from the high water, but the rest of them, when you look at the town code, it says, as established by the town planning board. So I'm not sure where those numbers came from.
They're all from the preliminary plan. This development originally had a mix of different setbacks and different uses. So this was all per the preliminary plan in 2002.
So there's other parcels in this development that have that same plan. So what you got, is this a new, I'm confused if this is a new
I would say that this is a
application?
less
This is the
intense,
same as the-
less intense proposal from what was originally proposed. In this area, 34 townhouses were proposed. The road is in the same spot, and
I don't have the original drawing.
right, I can provide the preliminary plan. In this exact area, 34 townhouses were proposed. Now we're 9 single-family lots.
Okay.
So we're much less intense than what was proposed, what was approved at preliminary, really.
But it looks like though, it looks like when you look at the drawing, where the townhouses were, the road came straight in, and the units are considerably, the road was further to the south. So it looks like there was a lot more room in here.
And as part of resubs and redesigns that were approved by this board over time, this road has moved over time, so that's the current location of where it is now. And realistically, these grades farther south, they really drop off, like an embankment slope. So the location of the road, as we have it shown, is, as far south as we feasibly can put it. We put a lot of thought and effort into how
How
that
come
could
the other
go.
map shows it more to the south than we have the townhouses?
Well, it wasn't more to the south. It's deceiving, because if you look at the preliminary plan, this line was straight through.
Well, I'm looking at the cut.
If you see here, see this, the reverse curve shown in the road here. There's actually another reverse curve that brings the road back up. So there is a dive the road took, and that was a part of some re-subdivisions that occurred in previous sections. So if you take a straight projection of where this road is shown and go directly east, it would be a straight line. but because of the resubs that occurred, you get basically the dip that occurs in the road. And with this, we're getting back on the original alignment. Sorry, I keep forgetting my
All right, you're missing something.
Mr. Kashani, can I add one more thing that I forgot to discuss, please?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Members of the planning board, thank you for the opportunity to let me speak again. Jacqueline Polito, 383 Coastal View Drive. When we came before the board in September of 2018, one of the things the board talked about was whether or not we needed to obtain a full environmental impact statement for the bluff because they were concerned about the bluff, as we all are concerned about the bluff with respect to the high water. So we're asking that the town require a full environmental impact statement for this proposal as well, but that full environmental impact statement include the entire Coastal View Subdivision, because whatever they do on their property is certainly going to impact their neighbors and the rest of the subdivision. And again, the subdivision was approved as a whole. They shouldn't be able to piecemeal it and just do a full environmental impact statement for just their 9 houses. It should be done for the entire neighborhood so that we all can see that impact statement. Thank you.
Could I respond to that? Seeker was done on this property during preliminary approval and approved back in 2002. We are doing seeker for this section, and we feel that it's wholly unnecessary to consider existing lots and any sort of environmental impact statement, as we're really not impacting any of the existing residents in terms of development, whether or not it's HOA or not. We're not impacting any of their properties by this development.
I keep going back to this other drawing.
Are you referring to the preliminary plan? Is that what you're referring to?
I'm looking at your drawing, your current one. This is the old one, I guess. The road comes down, there's like you have a loop in there, like a loop.
Turnaround?
Not a turnaround,
No. Circle?
yeah, circle.
No.
That was never developed. This preliminary plan, there have been deviations from the preliminary plan, dating back. And then, like I said, where the townhouses are shown, this alignment is consistent with the preliminary plan, but based on purchases of properties and re-subdivisions and different property owners wanting to do different things, the road has gone through kind of a jog, and that's kind of, we're left with the last piece now. And as you can see on the plan, it does do a reverse curve, and we're just trying to get back on the original alignment.
What are the setbacks on lot, 41 to 62?
On the preliminary plan?
Yeah, on the existing,
Yeah, those were 60 feet, but as you can see on this plan, those lots had a lot more depth than we have. And you can see the other lots 63 through 86, those were the 30-foot setbacks.
Yeah, those are the
So that's where I say we're complying with what was approved at the preliminary plan, so we're not going with anything smaller than wasn't previously approved, and this is really just the nature of
But the difference is, in my opinion, is that got clustered, smaller lots and everything, but look at the green area, you have the open space in the back of it, you know what I mean? There's more on the shore side,
yeah, I see what you're saying, yes.
you know what I mean?
Yep, and
So there's
again,
a benefit to letting that happen, preserve that land, but with this, why can't that road bend and go to the south a little bit more?
so
Instead of going north?
yeah, if you look at the grading plan,
I haven't got it.
it becomes like a 1-on-3 slope. It would just be uneconomical to build a road farther south. So we basically have it right now on the plateau, and then grades really fall off as you go to the south.
It looks like, okay, if you're saying so, but I'm just looking at it on your drawing. Yeah, I see where it gets very steep, but it looks like you've got, from the edge of your road, it looks like there's about 60 feet before you get to where it starts to drop off.
And it depends where you are too, because if you look at where this lot is, yes, sure, this road could have stayed a little bit farther south, but at that point, you're making these lots so deep that wasn't really wanting to make those lots.
The reason I'm suggesting that is to create more Either front setback, more standard, 30 foot's kind of tight, but we give you a little bit more to back house on the other side of the house. In other words, you're making the lots a little bit deeper
Correct.
by moving that road south a little bit.
Yeah, we can certainly look into it with Stacy.
I think some board should be looking at it. This is, you're jamming it, and I think it's well appreciated, just denying lots, but somehow we gotta get this thing to be part of a homeowners association. It's part of the same project. There's no in and out anywhere else. It doesn't have another exit when they're going out. They're all going out
Correct.
the same road, And I think that should be one. And I'm still confused with how this is, who owns what, and what part of this is being used for open space then? You said you transferred some of it or something?
Correct. Yeah. So the intent with not having the open space along the shore, because of the lessons that have been learned, and I think it's just better for homeowners to have the ability to maintain their property. So that's why we didn't propose the open space as was shown on the preliminary plan, and we've relocated it, areas shown in these hatched areas, which, I think it makes sense to have those as open space because there won't be any development there. And by doing this, we maintain the 6.88 acres that were required.
What is that square I'm looking at? Looks like in the curve of the road there, just south of it.
That's a house lot. So there's one house lot on the south side of the road, and that's another reason why we didn't keep the road to the south. Because that's a nice flat, and that's a nice lot that they wanted to get tonight.
So once you got past that house, I don't know, I'm just looking to try and get a little bit more room on those lots. If you could take
We
around
can certainly look, maybe if there's any way to pull that, even 20, 30 feet, we can certainly look, maybe once you get past lot 9, because part of the comment about the hammerhead, I think we need to jog at least a portion of that road a little bit farther south. So we'll certainly look at the geometry
That
and
would
see
be a
if we
little
can
bit more
pull
property.
some of this area a little bit farther south, that road south.
All right, is there anyone else that wanted to speak? I'm sorry. Nobody? Okay, we'll keep the public hearing open. I'm going to suggest we table this and suggest you guys get together with the homeowners association, see if we can work something out. And if you're going to be neighbors in there, and Stacy's been there for 17 years, just about living there yourself. Maybe they can get something going, get it on a good path where everybody's together on it. Okay?
Understood. Thank you.
Do that.
I think there is a good point about the consistency along the wall, with the original development, the concept.
Oh, yeah. On this one, yes.
Green space and protection on the shoreline.
Yeah.
You also need to see the whole thing really kind of relaid out based on the high water.
Understood.
For the code, and not the one that shows up in the FEMA, but the actual one that shows
The
up.
actual elevation, understood. Yep, supervise that.
Probably, I'm almost wondering if this is something we're going to talk to DEC. A little more than just this, because there are issues with the Lighting Commission for establishing and protecting shorelines, the development will go on.
Right, and we maintain the DEC's required buffer and then some, because we all are sensitive to, the effects of flooding.
No, I understand you're maintaining the buffer, but I'm talking about a current conversation with DEC regarding shoreline protection.
Understood.
Because their view of that is very different than what it was when it's development originally. It's changed really in the last 2 years.
So you're talking about tabling this to May 4th?
I'm sorry, Mark?
Are you talking about tabling this application?
Well, whatever they want to do.
For either
2 weeks or?
I think we can get these comments addressed and the plans revised back to you in less than 2 weeks.
You guys get together?
Members of the planning board, I respectfully suggest that 2 weeks is not enough time for the members of Coastal View to review this application in detail, which again, we were not informed of before like 24 hours ago. So we need more than 2 weeks to consider it. they want to reach any kind of an agreement.
Were letters, you should have received letters.
The individual homeowners received no notification of this proceeding.
So-
The HOA received notification 7 days ago, and then the HOA board just notified the homeowners. I, as an individual homeowner, received zero notification of this proceeding.
We sent out mailings per the town's requirements.
So
You may not have been in that
that's
area,
fine.
because I think it's 300 feet, is that right?
Yes.
From the property itself, so you may not have been within that 300-foot area, but we did send out mailings.
Is there a required signage posted at the end of the property or anywhere
Right.
that something was
I
going to
can't
be
really
zoned?
do it, you gotta use the microphone.
Question is, was there a sign that should have been required to be posted where the property is going to be developed at?
That's a long story. Yes and no. To have the sign up, it is not in the code. It's something the town is working on. We were just prior to this meeting, we were discussing it. It's something that the town is going to, putting signs. Right now, the requirement is it's posted in the newspaper, in the official town, the Webster Herald, which is the official town paper. It's on the website and mailings to everybody within 300 feet. More than the requirements, for notification. But we're all in agreement with the signs. And that's the thing that the town is working on. It has to be into the code before you can do it. And they're working on putting that in now.
Understood, thank
Good
you.
point, though.
The other question is, I'm still unclear, is if the board is going to require this development to be part of the HOA. It sounds like you're
What we're I think the board is in full agreement, suggesting they should be.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
And that's, we can't make them, in that regard, but we highly suggesting they do that. Get together with homeowners and work something out.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, if they want more time, instead of May the 4th, what about May the 18th?
All right.
Yeah, I think the last meeting in May is more appropriate.
Okay.
I think that, in my opinion, number one, I think we definitely want to see it included in the HOA. So the HOA and these people need to get together. That's going to take a little bit of time. I want to see if these properties adhere to the same standards as the rest of the project. And I want to see deeper setback. Okay, if they can't
what
get to
deeper?
60, a deeper setback.
Oh.
Okay, minimum at least 45 feet, not 30 feet. But that's my opinion, and that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, that's the idea. If we can move that road to the south a little bit,
Yep.
that'll extend the lots.
So I don't see any way in the world that they could ever get all that accomplished in 2 weeks.
Okay, so we'll make it, what is it, the 18th? All right, so we'll make a motion, John?
Yeah, make a motion for the Coastal View Subdivision, Section 5 to May the 18th.
Okay, we need a second.
I'll second.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, okay, so we're all set. So we got about a month now to, good luck, hopefully everything works out.
Thank you.
We won't close the public hearing, it's still open, so we'll continue on from where we were.
Can I speak before?
Oh, I'm sorry, sure, go ahead.
Dale
You
Dan.
can get your mask on.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if most of you know me or not. I'm Dale Vance. I've been with Hagedorns for 49 years now. I don't know if how many of you know me. I've been a part of the Hagedorn family for many, many years. Stacy, you all know him. He's been a great partner with you and with Hagedorns for many years. I think you all have a fairly high trust in Stacy being part of this. It's a different relationship we have with this as we did with Stacy and the first parts of this. I hope you have some faith in Stacy and the Hagedorn family in doing what's right. It may not be perfect, and I'm sorry we didn't have open communication. There was no intention for deception or hiding anything. In this year of COVID and things, it's not the same as it was years ago. Yeah, I apologize for the feeling of being pushed through without proper communication, so I understand that. So I apologize for that. But we try to have meetings every Friday. I'm sure we will discuss these issues and hopefully we can work everything out. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. All right, I guess with that, anything else, we're all set. We'll leave the public hearing open, so we'll just continue on. Okay, thanks for coming in, folks. With that, I guess